Welcome. Coffee and Sports, the morning show with Chris and Mo. I am Chris, and that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, everybody in the chat and everybody out there checking out the show.
Mo, let's start the show off with some quick headlines like we do around here. And Mo, Messi does it again. I don't know. I'm not a soccer guy. I'll be the first one to tell you that. People tell me Messi's one of the greatest soccer players of all time. I say that's pretty cool. Then I read up a little bit. This team in Miami is hot garbage. And, he's coming here for a variety of reasons. But then, Mo, every time I turn around, he's winning games for this team in Miami. All he's doing is scoring goals and leading them to victories and winning things that this team was never supposed to win. And I'm all for it. This is some exciting stuff. So Messi does it again. He leads his team. Now they're past the semifinals. They just keep winning stuff that apparently they were never winning before. So good for Messi. Good for everyone around there.
Better than advertised.
Right, better than advertised. In the ACC is ramping up talks with Cal, Stanford, and SMU. Mo, I guess that maybe Stanford will get a little bit of money. Maybe they don't have to pay their way in to the ACC. So good for Stanford, good for Cal, good for SMU. The Yankees won a game. Now it took 3 Aaron Judge home runs. One was a grand slam, and it was against one of the other worst teams in baseball. But I'm just happy the Yankees won a freaking game. So they snapped their 9-game losing streak. And then we look over across the way at the Los Angeles Angels, Anaheim, and Trout goes back on to the IL, the injured list. And then Ohtani has a torn UCL, similar to the injury suffered by quarterback Brock Purdy. And he is done pitching for the 2023 season. And they are figuring out right now whether or not the baseball phenom needs surgery. And as we talk about this, Mo, I'm going to bring in, hey, we love guests around here. I'm going to bring Jonathan onto the show because who better to ask a baseball question than the man himself, JG. So let's take a minute. Welcome JG to the show. Jonathan, how are you this morning, sir?
Man, I'm doing good. I missed you guys. I had a lot of things been going on. I've been traveling still, but I'm back, and I'm to be back with you guys. So I missed y'all.
Hey, we're happy to have you here this morning, and we're going to jump right into it. Obviously, if you're an Angels fan this morning, bad news goes to worse news because now you're without your superstars because, Trout comes back from the IL on Tuesday just to go back on it now. So that's awesome. And then you have Ohtani, who is injured. And JG, I have to ask you this. We've never seen, really, honestly, a talent like Ohtani before. And you always have to ask yourself, as an athlete gets older, would there ever come a point in his career where he would have to pick, where he would have to decide, I'm going to focus on pitching or I'm going to focus on hitting, because it just makes sense that the body can't keep doing what he's doing forever, and eventually he's going to have to choose one or the other. Is this potentially the start of that? And I ask because he's about to become maybe the most sought-after free agent in Major League Baseball history, and now he's going to enter free agency coming off of this injury where he potentially does or does not get surgery. Just kind of give us the outlook on Ohtani as his impending free agency is coming up.
Yeah, this injury to the elbow is definitely going to scare teams to, how much longer do they want him to pitch? I mean, he is a great pitcher, but he's also a great hitter. We have seen in today's era Tommy John surgery, and that's where the UCL tear comes from, where we see pitchers recover from that. They're able to be back. I mean, this is a different era of technology in the medical world as well. If this was 20 years ago, it's a whole different situation you're in. But here we are today. We have guys that have Tommy John surgery, countless times right now, and they're back within a year and a half, almost 2 years to being normal. In Ohtani's situation, I mean, we had that with Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper had Tommy John surgery just recently, and he came back and he's playing. So even position players have had potential Tommy John surgery in itself. For Ohtani, though, the situation is going to make it to where this is how much longer is he going to want to be able to, or is he going to be able to pitch? Obviously, I think Ohtani wants to pitch throughout his career. He wants to hit throughout his career. Being able to do both is going to be very difficult as he continues to get older. And that's what the situation where the team's going to look at and say, where do you value the most? And that's what I think this offseason is going to determine a lot, because we always hear a little bit about what teams think of players. How do teams view Ohtani in the long term is going to be the big situation of where he's going to sign with the most. Are they going to allow him to be both pitcher and hitter? Or are they going to say, we'll let you be a pitcher hitter, but at some point you're done doing one of those? And more likely they're going to sit there and say, you're a 40, 50 home run hitter. Your career can be longer as a hitter versus being a pitcher. And this is kind of what we've seen in history of Japanese pitchers. They're eventually not able to handle the workload that happens in the United States in Major League Baseball than they do in Japan. Japan, they pitch every 6 days. The season's not as long. They're able to withstand it a little bit better than they do to come to the United States, pitch in MLB every 5 days, 162 games. You're having 30-plus starts. It's a lot more workload that you're having here than you are in Japan. The longest time I've said, I may have said it to you guys, I've said it to others as well, he was built differently with his body. His body type, he's a bigger guy. You see Daisuke Matsuzaka, a smaller, typical Japanese pitcher. Hideo Nomo was not a big guy himself when he came in the 90s. Kenshin Kawakami, you have all these pitchers from Japan that are a little bit smaller body types, their body breaks down. Shohei was built different. Now, this is just the unfortunate side that I don't care how you're built, your arm can only take so much, and that's where the UCL comes in play for this. But can he pitch again? I believe so. But what is his future going to be? And teams are going to determine that this year, this offseason for him. What do they value most for his future, as a hitter or as a pitcher? He can be a 40-plus home run hitter on a yearly basis, and he can play into his mid to late 30s probably as a DH hitter. Is that what he wants? I don't know, because he states quite frequently he wants to do both for his career. It's going to be determined exactly what other teams feel, especially after this injury. How do they feel about that?
Now, JG, is this an injury where, let's say, it doesn't require surgery? Does this as a hitter for the rest of the season, or can he play through this and kind of let it heal on its own and then revisit the pitching side of it next season?
If they were in contention a little bit more than what they currently are, yeah, he could still hit. He could still be a hitter, and that he would take a couple weeks off from hitting. Let him do physical therapy. Let the elbow kind of get a little bit stronger around the UCL. If it's partially torn and everything like that, because again, he doesn't throw. He's not a position player as far as in the field. So 2 weeks is 3 weeks of physical therapy, strengthen it back up, and then he can go back and hit. Yes. If they were in contention for playoff a little bit more, I think that would be very likely to do. If I'm Shohei, now again, this is me, and I say, I'm about to be a free agent. I'm about to make the most money in Major League Baseball history. We're not making the postseason. I would really consider sitting out the rest of the year. It does not do me any good. I've already shown, if I'm Shohei, I've already shown 40 home runs. We still have a month left in the season. I could hit 50, 55 home runs and showcase everything that I'm about. There's no guarantee what he's going to do is going to help him even more than what he's already done. So what is the incentive at this point for Shohei other than potentially hurting that elbow a little bit more? And so I mean, he can play. To answer your question, he can play through this after 2-3 weeks of physical therapy if there's no surgery needed. Well, what is the incentive to do so at this point? There isn't much more. It's not like he's going to make more money at this point if the rest of the season, hitting another 10 home runs in the month of September. It doesn't really mean anything for him. He's already going to get the biggest contract. So if I'm Shohei and I know we're not making the postseason, I'd consider sitting out the rest of the season, shutting down and saying, hey, appreciate you guys for the last few years. Now I'm going to go free agency and get paid.
All right. Gentlemen, let's jump over to the National Football League. Mo, the Jonathan Taylor saga takes another turn, not necessarily in a bad way, but it's moving quickly. So we know that Jonathan Taylor was given permission to seek a trade, and we've speculated here, and you brought it up, whether or not this is just Irsay saying, go ahead, go find yourself a trade, find out that you're not worth what you want, and then you're going to be a Colt all season. That remains to be seen. That could still be the situation. However, it does look like teams are interested. A report came out yesterday afternoon that 6 different teams are potentially interested in trading for Jonathan Taylor, and 2 of them have submitted offers. It has been confirmed the Miami Dolphins are one of those teams that has put forth some sort of an offer. We don't know who the second team is, nor do we know who the other 4 teams who are apparently interested. What we do know is there's a deadline. The Colts have set a deadline for Tuesday of next week. That is when a decision needs to be made to take him off the PUP list. That is when rosters need to be trimmed down to 53. So that's when there's some NFL deadlines associated with it. And that is what the Colts have said. If you're going to be moved, it's going to happen by Tuesday. So you have until Tuesday to bring us an offer or offers that we are interested in, and then we'll kind of take it from there. So, Mo, I ask you this. It's coming up. We're less than a week away from that. Will Jonathan Taylor be a Colt come Wednesday of next week?
I think it depends on the strength of the offers that are put out there. Look, if the Dolphins are really all about what they can do going forward with Tua, with the talent they have offensively, and the guys that they've added, they seem to be all in and trying to win a Super Bowl and be a legit contender. I actually like the running backs they have as a unit, but if you bring in Jonathan Taylor, it gives you another dynamic. It gives you a guy who can give you 1,300 to 1,500 yards. He's also a threat out the backfield. So if I'm Miami, and I know they said the Colts want a number 1 or a number of picks that basically equate to a number 1. If I'm Miami, and I'm not worried so much about the draft capital, I'm set at all positions. Yeah, I make a strong offer. So to me, big picture, is he still a Colt? My gut feeling is, knowing Jim Irsay, yeah, he's still a Colt. I think he's going to get some good offers, some fair offers. But if it's Jim Irsay, he doesn't care about fair. He will literally keep Jonathan Taylor on that roster just for spite.
Jonathan, will we see Taylor be moved before Tuesday, or will he be stuck a Colt all season?
I think he's going to stay as a Colt. I don't think Irsay is being sincere in this. Hey, go seek a trade. You have till Tuesday. Go seek a trade. Even if, I actually could see this. Even if the Dolphins, let's just say, and I don't know if the Dolphins actually would offer a first-round pick because, again, at the point we've seen and we've talked about, running backs aren't valued. Running backs are not valued in a trade package. A running back is not valued as a first-round pick. I mean, we see receivers. Receivers are so valued in today's game; they're not being traded for first-round picks. They're being traded for second-round picks. So is the Dolphins going to offer 2 seconds or anything? I don't really think that's the case. I don't. So but I'd say this: even if a first-round pick was offered, I don't see Irsay and the Colts saying yes. I think they're doing it just to, one, get the players' union off of Irsay and the Colts' back because of the comments he made, which he should not have made. We said about that numerous times. He was very stupid in making the comments saying, hey, if I die and he's out of the league, nobody cares. Or it's a very stupid comment. Shouldn't have done it. Players' union is up in arms at Irsay. So he's telling them, go, okay. Well, I spoke out of turn. Shouldn't say that. Go look for a trade. But behind closed doors, I guarantee you he's probably going, yeah, we're not doing it. We're not going to trade him. So at this point, it's just wordplay. I don't think there's any actual sincerity in the words of what he says, go seek a trade. Well, if we get our offer, we'll say yes to it. It's more of just trying to save face and say, hey, yeah, we'll do what's best for you. We'll do what's best for us, and we'll go from there. I think at the end of the day, by Wednesday morning, or whenever the deadline is on Tuesday, Jonathan Taylor is going to stay as a Colt, and he won't. And I don't see him at this point too. I actually don't see him playing.
I'm with JG. Jim Irsay's petty is next level. It's next level. This is not everything JG did. He hit on all the points. This is all for show. He has no intentions of trading Jonathan Taylor. One, I don't think he thinks somebody's going to surprise him like JG said and give him a number 1 pick for a running back. That's not going to happen. A fair pick or compensation might be a 2, but I don't think he's going to get that either. And maybe even if he did, knowing Irsay, like I said, he's still not going to trade him. He's still going to keep him. Not just keep him, but JG just hit on it. He's going to be sitting on the bench. He's going to keep him, and he's just going to sit there and ride. Just ride pine.
So news came out in San Francisco yesterday. Backup quarterback job has been won by Sam Darnold, who, by the way, has been the most impressive quarterback in camp for the 49ers this offseason. But we all knew that it was Brock Purdy and was most likely going to be Brock Purdy pending his health situation. And then Kyle Shanahan goes and he pulls a Jerry Jones because they announced that Sam Darnold is going to be quarterback number 2. Then Trey Lance isn't at practice yesterday, which makes sense because you would assume that if Darnold is number 2, that's probably going to spell the end of Trey Lance in San Francisco. So that means they're probably exploring different things with Trey. Maybe Trey needed a day because he's a little disappointed that he didn't win the backup job and that he could be leaving San Francisco. So I understand why he might need a day to kind of, get himself together because that's tough for a kid. And then they asked Kyle Shanahan about Trey Lance. And I understand why he said it, Mo. I think he could have said some other things. I don't think he needed to go this far. But what he said was, we really want Trey Lance to be a part of this team moving forward. And I have to look at that, Mo, and I have to say to myself, you can see, there's so many things you can say. You can say that we're exploring everything that's on the table. We're exploring all the options for Trey. We would love for Trey to be on the team this season. We're looking for the best situation for us and for Trey. There's 4 or 5 different ways he could have spun that, where he didn't have to include moving forward, where he didn't have to kind of open that door for past this season. Because it's very possible Trey Lance starts the season as a 49er and they move him before the trade deadline. It's very possible that he does stay on board for 1 more year and they give him another offseason and another preseason next year just to see if they can develop something out of this kid. All right, yeah, I can see that happening. But it's also very possible he's gone by Tuesday of next week.
Sure.
But for Kyle Shanahan to come down and double down on the fact that not only does he really want him here, he wants him here moving forward, Mo. Did you have an issue with that? Was he just being politically correct? Does he actually want Trey Lance on the team moving forward? What did you take from his comments yesterday about Trey Lance?
So you want him on the team for the future, but you don't think he's good enough to be the backup. He's not good enough to be the backup. The guy that you invested 3 number 1s, multiple number 2s, but you don't think he's better than Sam Darnold as a backup. No, I don't think Shanahan was being sincere. I think he was saying what he needed to say because he knows they actually want to move him. But I think you don't want to come out and say, we want to move him, because everybody else, they see what we see. They know what's going on. To be fair to Trey Lance, though, he is 22, 23, still plenty young enough to develop, to improve. So I understand that he does have value, but for Shanahan to come out and almost overpraise him and talk about how much he's going to be part of their future when a journeyman just beat him out for the number 2 quarterback position, that's insincere. But it's also a salesman job at the same time, right? You're trying to build him up while at the same time you basically came out and said, we love him, we want him going forward, we just don't think he's good enough to be our backup.
And not only is it a salesman job, it really is what we saw from Jerry Jones the day before. I love my running backs. My running backs are great. We are comfortable with our running backs going into the season, but we're not ruling out the possibility of trading for Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, you said it all on one side, and then less than 5 seconds later, you're discrediting everything else you just said. But JG, that being said, and I think the 3 of us can agree that there isn't a team out there right now that probably wants Trey Lance to start this season, because I don't think there's a team out there that looks at Trey Lance as a starter for this season. But is there a team out there, JG, where you're like, okay, he's not going to start this season, but maybe they have a quarterback who's getting older, like maybe a Kirk Cousins, who we don't know his future in Minnesota. Is there a team like that that would be okay taking Trey Lance, for a 6th round pick or whatever it might be, letting him sit for a year or two because they're comfortable with their quarterback spot for this year and maybe next year, and then in a couple of years they'll see where they're at. And if it's great, wonderful. If he still can't play, you didn't lose a lot.
Yeah, there's a few teams that you can come to mind. Minnesota being one with Cousins. Again, at the end of the day, his contract's going to be coming up here pretty soon when there's no guaranteed money left. So that's an option that Minnesota could go down to. If I'm thinking off the top of my head, why not the Rams? With Matt Stafford, who's an older quarterback. Again, I know the Sean McVay, how much longer is he going to be a coach would be the big question mark for the Rams right there. Is he going to, if he's there long term, could he help develop Trey Lance? Possibly, but with an older quarterback that's already on the roster, there's already been talks of Stafford retiring at some point, so that could be an option. And another one could be as well would be Denver, and have Sean Payton work with him behind Russell Wilson. And if again, I know Wilson's got the contract, so there's not really like there's a immediate 1 year and then he's ready to go. But and I'll use this example, Jameis Winston went to New Orleans to work with Sean Payton behind Drew Brees, and eventually did become a starter, and now he's back to being a backup. But it was the best thing for Jameis to go and be with Sean Payton and kind of learn a little bit on the job behind a Hall of Fame quarterback. I could see Trey Lance being an option in Denver as far as just be a backup behind Russell, learn from Sean, learn from Russell Wilson. When his contract's up, he's now able to be a little bit more comfortable to go and showcase himself to teams that might be looking and say, hey, we'll take a chance on you and be able to do this now. There would be options that I could foresee to be able to do that. Or, if anything, again, be a backup, go to Kansas City and work with Andy Reid. Let's say, hey, look, again, there's no chance of me being a starter in Kansas City, but I need to learn. I need to be able to be around an environment that wants me to learn. He's been around in Shanahan. That's a great environment to be around. They gave up on him now. So needing to go be with a coach and someone who and a starting quarterback that will be willing to work and teach him and say, this is the job. Because if we all forget sometimes, he's only played, I think they said, he's 3 years as a starting quarterback from high school, college, and in the NFL, 3 years. And he's been playing quarterback for almost, at this point, 7 8 years of his from that point. He only had one season really at North Dakota State, I believe it was, or South Dakota, one of the two, one of the Dakota states. He's only had one full season playing in college. On top of the 2 years he was a starter in high school, and now the 1 year in the NFL that he didn't even get to finish in the NFL. So he needs opportunities to learn. He needs opportunities to play at some point. But I think right now the best case scenario is go find a team with a great coach that was worked with quarterbacks, Sean Payton, Andy Reid, Sean McVay, possible opportunities. And just go sit and learn from Pat Mahomes, learn from Russell Wilson, learn from Matt Stafford. And then when your time is to go be a free agent, go showcase what you can do to the teams that are looking for quarterbacks at that point. You're still young. As you said, you're still young. You're able to do it. At that point, he needs an opportunity where they can believe in him to teach him and then be able to go be the quarterback that everybody projected him to be, but just hasn't had the opportunity with the injuries and had the opportunity to really to show it as we move forward so far through his NFL career.
You know what? To JG's point, look at Jordan Love with the Packers. He got to sit and he got to marinate behind one of the all-time great quarterbacks. Now, I don't know what that projects to this season, but I will tell you this. Whatever version we get of Jordan Love, it'll be the best version that he could have when you consider the time that he's been in the NFL, the time he's got to get into his playbook, learn from Aaron Rodgers, learn from their system. I think Trey Lance needs that. I think that's a perfect setup. Put him behind a proven veteran quarterback. Maybe he sits for a year or two, but he can get into his playbook. He can study. He can get his reps in practice. And I'm not comparing him to Jalen Hurts as a talent, But I am saying that Jalen Hurts, well, how he improved because Jalen Hurts is a beast when it comes to studying the game. He's a student of the game. He put in the work on the mental side as well as the physical side to improve his overall performance. I think that Trey Lance came into the NFL and he wasn't really ready for the speed of the NFL and the complexity of the NFL. So I do think that sitting behind a veteran quarterback would do wonders for him.
And gentlemen, to both your points, if he stays in San Francisco, he stays in San Francisco as what he was brought in as, a first-round quarterback with all this draft capital that was given up to get him. He stays in there with that expectation. If he leaves San Francisco, no matter where he goes next, the expectation changes. Now he is that guy that San Francisco spent a lot to get. It didn't pan out, and we don't know what his future is. And then you put him behind a quarterback who is already established. Don't send him to Chicago, where there's still potentially questions about Fields. Don't send him to Tampa Bay, where you know that Trask and Mayfield are not the future of this team. Don't send him to any situation where the quarterback who's currently there has questions already. Yes, I understand that Stafford may not be around for another 2 or 3 years, but while he's healthy, he's the guy. Yes, I understand that Cousins may be gone in a year or two, but as long as he's in Minnesota, he's the guy. And that's what he needs. He needs a spot where no one's asking, is he going to start over them? No, he's not. As long as that person is there, he's a backup quarterback. And he may even be a third-string quarterback, and that's fine. But then the other side of that is, Mo, why would a team trade for him at that point then? If I'm Minnesota or I'm the Rams or I'm the Broncos and I'm set for the next 2 or 3 seasons, I don't need Trey Lance. I'm definitely not giving you a 4th or a 5th for him because why am I giving up assets for someone that might start in 3 years or 2 years that I know is going to be a developmental project? I'll wait for you to release him, and then maybe we'll have a conversation with him and see where he is. Mo, do you see any of those teams actually making the trade? But more importantly, would San Francisco let him go without the trade? Would San Francisco just cut bait and say, hey, we'll get nothing in return for him, and we'll admit it was a total catastrophic failure? Because at least if they get a 6th round, it's something, right? It's something. At this point, you save face by saying we got something in return. But once you cut him, you're acknowledging the fact that it was a failure all the way around. So does that come into play, Mo? Does San Francisco refuse to be viewed in that light, or are they over it?
How many front offices come clean and go, we really messed up on that one? It's totally on us. This guy was terrible. We didn't scout him well. Very few do that. But what I'll say is this: the same way starting quarterbacks get groomed, so do backup quarterbacks. I don't want to write the young man off, but maybe his lot in this NFL life, maybe he turns out to be a very reliable backup quarterback, a sometime starter. Think Tyrod Taylor, think Teddy Bridgewater, somebody of that nature. And there's nothing wrong with that if that turns out to be your career. The disappointment is how much they invested in him. And like you said, the perception will always be, that's that guy that San Francisco gave up the kitchen sink for, and he's basically a backup quarterback. But if you're a backup quarterback in this NFL, with injuries being what they are, you still have value. The backup quarterback has tons of value. So while I don't want to write him off, I do think he has a future in the NFL. The question is at what level and at what position in terms of QB1, QB2, or QB3. I think sitting behind a veteran, sitting with a coach who has an offensive mind, it will benefit him in the long run going forward in his career. I don't know what his ceiling is. Honestly, as a Niners fan, what I knew about him coming out, the film that I saw on him, I didn't know what his ceiling was then. I honestly didn't, because I was looking at the level of competition. And then when I found out he had only been a starter for 1 season, I have no idea how good he has been. But if you're asking me what I expected of him, he's been everything that I expected of him. Honestly, he has. That doesn't mean that he can't turn it around with time, but I just think what he needs is a year or 2 away, like you said, Chris, from having that pressure of being that guy. He needs to go somewhere where fans might even just forget about him for a year or 2 and he can just focus on getting better.
Now, before we jump to Hard Knocks, JG, since I have you here, and you weren't a part of this conversation yesterday, and you are a baseball guy, so maybe you can shed a little bit more light on this. Yesterday on the show, we talked about Tristan McKenzie. He was on a podcast with Mookie Betts, and Tristan revealed that he names all of his prized possessions, his car, his watch, his glove, his travel bag, his necklace. And Mo and Will and we're discussing, it's a little strange. But then I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, well, maybe it's a baseball thing. Like maybe, and us guys not being baseball guys, maybe we need to get JG's perspective, because maybe we're missing the boat, and maybe Mo doesn't have a better relationship with his laptop.
I don't. Shed some light, JG.
Because it's a baseball thing. So, JG, is it a baseball thing? What is it?
Hey, you're gonna have to out me on this, right? Is that what it is?
Did you name
I will
club?
say, I'm gonna say right now, it is a baseball thing. I've had a few guys who have named their gloves or named their bats. I'm not one. Now I will say, okay, I have a little bit of eccentric, traits. And when I played, I'll give you one example of what I did. So I played first base. My first base bid was my prized possession. Love it. I still have it to this day right now. And I'm going to tell you real quick what I did when I played, and it's still ongoing currently. I made a little pallet bed for my glove. I took a couple blankets, folded it up, put it on a little table, and that was when I came home from practice or whatnot. It never left. My glove would never go in my bag. Never did. Took care of it. It was like I said, it was my baby. Took care of it very well. Came home, got in my room. I'd sit it on its bed, fingers down like this, and it would sit right there every time. Now, if I made an error, or if I missed, it's first base, if I missed a scoop, my glove goes in timeout. I put my glove in timeout, and I'm saying it would go in timeout, and it would be in timeout until the next morning. Then I take it out and I put it back in its bed. All right, and it would stay in its bed until practice. I go get it, go from there, go to practice, have good practice, great. You get to go back in your bed. If you had a bad practice, or if I missed the ball or anything like that, you're back in timeout. So baseball players are a different breed. We are very eccentric on how we handle things. And I'll say it's psychological, though. It is. It's psychological. And for Tristan McKenzie, I'm not speaking for him, but I can speak a little bit as far as probably the thought process. I can't speak on the necklace. I can't speak on the prized possessions outside of baseball. That part's a little bit, that's a pitcher's thing. Okay. It's not just a baseball. That's being a pitcher. And so pitchers are far, far away than just what me as a position player are. But it is your bond with your equipment. It is because that is, it's a little different in other sports. Football, your pads are your pads, or your protection. Basketball, there is no equipment that you're having. Baseball, your equipment makes you money. Your glove makes you money. Your bat makes you money. You have to take care of them. I told my kids that I've coached, I'll tell you this real quick. I told my kids I coached, we had a couple games, and we went and said, hey, we're gonna wash it away. Like, we had a bat, we didn't hit very well today, wash it away. And they're like, yeah, okay, we'll come back right. I said, no. Literally wash it away. Take your bats, go home, get in the bathtub, and clean your bat and literally wash the bad games away. And sure enough, they were like, what? I'm like, just do it. And we did. And they were like, hey, yeah, okay, this is good. Came back and we hit, and we went on a 3-game winning streak and had, hit after hit after hit after hit. It's a psychological thing that you have to do, because your equipment in baseball makes you money. So if you bond with your equipment, and I know that sounds so weird to the non-baseball people, but if you bond with them and you have that connection with it, you feel comfortable, and that's always the most important aspect. Again, I don't get the necklace, I don't get the naming of the phone, the card, nothing like that. That's a little bit beyond. That's being a pitcher, but no, I've had teammates who have named their equipment. And like I said, I had a bed. I literally made a bed for my glove, And if it was good that day, it gets to stay in its bed and gets to sleep and rest and relax. If it had a bad day, made an error, it goes in timeout until the next morning.
So it is just baseball guys are just different. But that doesn't explain Will's situation with his microphone.
That is correct.
That's not about baseball at all. I don't know if you got to see the show, but Will was on here, and Will has a very emotional relationship with his microphone. But much like you and your glove, but you explained that's a baseball thing. That's psychological. I don't know what the deal is with the microphone.
And like I said, I still have my first base mitt in a little bed right now. It's retired. Okay, so it's retired now, but it's still sitting fingers up like that in a little pallet bed right now. So I mean, it's just how it's been for me. It's been that way. And now if I need it for practice as a coach, yeah, I'll go get it and whatnot and everything. But then I come back and it sits back on its bed. So yeah, it was just psychological for me. It was always a psychological thing that I just had that connection with my equipment, with my glove. I've had teammates do the same thing, basically in different ways. But yeah, you gotta love baseball players because how we think.
Well, I guess the good news is the glove can't get anymore because it's officially retired. So it just gets to life away in its bed. So
yes,
hear that, JG. I don't know if you're watching Hard Knocks. I don't know if I'm seeing Hard Knocks, but Hard Knocks is starting, and we got to kind of, and we've kind of speculated about this. That came to the New York Jets. He brought him a bunch of his players, his friends, people he wanted around him. He supposedly had a list that he went out and he got a list fulfilled. And one of those people on the list for Aaron Rodgers was Randall. And you ask yourself, well, we saw Randall Cobb and you know that there's there with Randall Cobb as far as what is he going to produce on the field for the New York Jets. But then if you watched Fox, Randall Cobb isn't necessarily catching passes. Saw on Hard Knocks this week, Randall Cobb kind of be the de facto method of Rodgers. See, aside, you would imagine Aaron Rodgers to them, but couldn't say to them because Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to come across as crazy. Doesn't want to.
I think Chris is having technical difficulties for sure. He's got a strong lag going. Yeah, I'm getting nothing from this. I'm going to translate that. For sure, we know that Aaron Rodgers wanted Randall Cobb on the Jets. I don't know what Randall Cobb has left to offer this stage of his career. He's got to be in his mid-30s, maybe even later than that as a wide receiver. So I don't know if that's a controversy, but if he can still be productive, then, you're all in on Aaron Rodgers. You're going to do whatever pleases Aaron Rodgers, right? And right now, he wants Randall Cobb. He wants his guy there. He's got his other guys there. And he's looking at trying to add a Packer offensive lineman as well to bolster up that Jets offensive line. I think Chris was kind of going in that direction. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Again, we haven't seen a Randall Cobb productive season, especially with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I'm looking at his stats right now. The last time, 2014 with Green Bay, he had 1,000 yards. 2015, he had 829. That was the most yards he's had playing for Aaron, with an Aaron Rodgers-led team. His last season in Green Bay, 2018, before he left to Dallas and Houston, he had 383 yards, 653 in 2017. The last 2 years in Green Bay, 375 yards and 417 yards. So Are you going to get a productive Randall Cobb? No. At this point of his career, there's no such thing as a productive Randall Cobb. It's more of comfortability. It's more of probably using the leadership that Randall Cobb has exhibited in his career to the younger receivers that has been built in New York, and saying, and basically relaying a connection, saying this is what Rodgers wants of you. This is how he's going to want it. It's basically being that bridge where Rodgers will talk to the receivers, and then Cobb's going to do the same thing and say, hey, in order for you to get the most out of working with Aaron, you have to do things this way. And because he's been with him, for the majority of his career, he's that bridge for them. And is he going to do some things for them on the team wise? Absolutely. Randall Cobb's been a team player for throughout his career. He's a leader, lead by example type of player. But are you expecting him to get 500 to 600 receiving yards? Not with this group. No, I don't think that with this talented of a receiving core that they have, I don't think that they're going to utilize Cobb to be productive by yards and touchdowns. It's more of, hey, when you get your number called, yeah, you're going to make a play, but you're here to do a bridge job with the young guys for Aaron. You'll be you've been pretty good at blocking for us at times as well in the run game. You'll help us in that aspect of, but the side of Randall Cobb of being the top receiver or even a top 2, top 3, those days have been gone a long time. It's more of now just being a leader to young receivers and being the bridge of communication for Aaron Rodgers to these young guys and saying, this is how he wants you to do your job. This is how he wants this route run. This is how he wants your body to be positioned. This is how your hands are going to be positioned for him to throw the ball like this. He's going to be that communicator for these young receivers to Aaron.
I think that
what happens if it doesn't go that way? What happens if these receivers continue to struggle? What happens if they continue to run the wrong routes? I mean, we've seen happy-go-lucky Aaron. We've seen smiles. We've seen, I love the young kids. I love being a part of it. But also, if you watch Hard Knocks, we've seen him get hit. We've seen him say some side-eye things about the offensive line, which still seems to be struggling a little bit. We saw on Hard Knocks this week, even wide receiver number 1, Wilson, was running some of the wrong routes in camp, which it happens, Mo. That's what camp is for, right? Sure. But you have to sit here in the back of your mind and be like, is Aaron a ticking time bomb? Is he really not the new Aaron Rodgers? And all the things that we saw in Green Bay with his frustrations with the kids and not are we going to see that again, Mo? Because it looks like as we're a week and a half away from the season, some of that stuff is coming back up.
I think if the Jets start off slow, let's say they start off, 2-4, you're gonna see that frustration. Look, Aaron Rodgers, as great as he is, he also knows that he's on a different timetable than most people. He's got maybe 2 years at a high level, maybe even 3 if you're pushing it. He doesn't have time to waste a whole season. So if they start off slow, yes, I think you'll see some frustration from him, but it works the other way around too. If they're winning and the receiving core and Rodgers haven't really developed that chemistry yet, but they're still winning, I think you're still going to see happy-go-lucky Aaron, even though on the inside he's probably boiling. I think that's the key, right? They have talent in the receiving room. They have talent on the outside. It really is just a matter of timing, chemistry. JG hit on it. Randall Cobb's greatest strength on that team is his impact in the locker room, is his impact in the film room when he's talking to these young guys. It'll be his impact in practice, showing these guys how to do it, how to run those routes. When you've got to win into to anticipate the blitz package and do a double move, I think Randall Cobb is basically he's going to be more like an assistant coach than he is a football player.
And gentlemen, something interesting happened, and I'd love to get your opinion, both of your opinions on this. So we don't hear a lot of sound bites from Tua. Tua is not a super outspoken athlete. And then obviously a lot of the conversation around Tua has to do with concussions, and that's not something that he appears to be super willing to just discuss openly. He gives you kind of the PC answer. He gives you kind of a little bit of insight of what he's doing to kind of better himself. but he's not the guy, the rah-rah guy who's going to sit there and just want to talk concussions to you all day, which is really what most of the media wants to talk to him about. But yesterday, after practice, he was asked about some comments that were made by Ryan Clark earlier in the day. And earlier in the day, Ryan Clark essentially went into this little tangent about Tua, where they were talking about some comments Mike McDaniels made. And Coach McDaniels said that Tua put on some weight this offseason to help with his health, to help him take hits, be a little more durable, help him sustain some of the impact, along with his judo and his jiu-jitsu stuff that he was working on. And then Mike McDaniels was saying that he's noticed some benefits during the preseason and the camp because he put on more weight. He said that in some areas of the game, he looks a little bit stronger. He looks a little bit more explosive, and he's contributed that to some of the muscle weight that Tua has put on. Now, that may be so. That may be McDaniel just hyping up QB1. That's neither here nor there. But the comments that Ryan Clark made were that he said that it's pretty obvious that Tua hasn't been hitting the gym this season as far as him putting on the weight. And he talked about how it doesn't look like Tua's missed any meals this offseason. And then he kind of went into this little tangent talking about strip clubs and girls in the strip club and girls looking thick in the strip club. And it definitely kind of took the rest of the panel, kind of by surprise as far as like what connection he was trying to make. And then when the information was relayed back to Tua was basically like, keep my name out of your mouth. Clearly, Ryan Clark thinks he knows more about me than I know about me, and he just needs to kind of pump the brakes, bro. JG, it's one thing, and I'm going to say these situations are different. It's one thing when James Harden puts on 20 pounds because he wants to get out of a franchise. I think in that situation, we're all very aware of what James Harden is doing and why he is doing it, and he also is aware of what he is doing. And I don't think that James Harden feels like he's being fat shamed. I think James Harden in that situation wants more people talking about it because he was trying to accomplish something. And the more people that talk about it, the more it helps his cause. When you look at Tua, I think you're looking at a situation for a guy who has some serious health concerns. And he even said himself that he was considering retirement. He chose not to. And now he's doing things that he thinks are going to protect him physically this season. JG, as an athlete yourself, do you have an issue with anything Ryan Clark said from an observational point? And do you think that Tua took it too personally? Or is there not a wrong way to take it if you're Tua? Is that the only way as an athlete you can take it in that situation? Or is it both guys just kind of be taken out of context?
In regards for Tua first, no, I think that was probably that was probably the only way he could take it. And I think we've heard when a player gets questioned about their work ethic, we've heard a lot worse being said. And the fact of Tua being who he is, that was probably the worst we'll ever hear Tua speak. Just because he is a quiet. He comes from, again, he even said it himself. I watched it and listened to it. Comes from a Samoan family. They are more humble about their ways. They're more humble about their lives and how they go about things. And for him to speak to what he did, that is probably the worst we'll ever hear Tua Tagovailoa speak about, against somebody right there, which says a lot as far as just how he is. I don't have a problem with what Tua said, because if he did put time in the gym and somebody's questioning your work ethic, and that's exactly what Ryan was talking about, was your work ethic. You didn't really spend a lot of that time in the gym, like everybody's saying. And I can get the perspective of Ryan, because if you look at certain guys who spend time in the gym, they look a little bit different. I'll use Derek Carr. Derek Carr last year to what he looks like this year in New Orleans, he looks bigger. Tua, in certain facets of him, doesn't look bigger, but they're saying he is bigger. Okay, well, that's fine. If he put time in the gym, absolutely, I would be absolutely, incensed to it being questioned. Hey, your work ethic, you didn't spend a lot of time in the gym. You got bigger, yeah, you got bigger, but you didn't do it in the gym. But if I put my time in there, yeah, hey, were you in the gym with me at 6 a.m? Were you here at 6 a.m. till 9 o'clock? and then I'm going to go and get some work in and get some more film and get this. Did you see the work I put in? If you didn't, why are you speaking about me? I can understand Tua's point of view of it if he did put his time in the gym. Now, I don't know. I wasn't there. So I can't say yes, Tua was doing it, or no, Tua wasn't doing it. So for Ryan, who does Ryan work for? Ryan works for ESPN. Ryan's job is to create content, which is what ESPN does. And Ryan's really good at it. He's very good at it. But is it the right thing for him to do? Because again, were you in the gym? No, Ryan, you are part of a group in Baton Rouge with the gyms that they have there with the athletes in Baton Rouge. Tua doesn't train in Baton Rouge with you. So again, I don't think you can really speak on somebody who's at another place, in another location, doing other workout programs and say you're not doing good enough, or you're not doing enough, or you're not doing it at all. And so, but again, his job with ESPN is to create content, speak about somebody who is pretty high profile in the NFL, and that is Tua. He's pretty high, big name, and what's going on over the last couple of years, and especially last year with the concussions. He's very well known. So speaking and creating content is what Ryan was trying to do. I don't like it, but that's the world of journalism. I don't have a problem with Tua responded, because, again, if you were there in the gym, you saw him there, great, awesome. If you weren't, we'll find out. We'll see this year if exactly how much work Tua put in and how much better is he going to be because of it, or are we going to see the same Tua Tagovailoa that we've seen the last couple of years just not be able to withstand the pounding of the NFL because he can't handle it anymore.
Well, was anyone out of line there?
To me, I thought Ryan Clark was out of line. Look, a lot of guys work out religiously and they're not ripped. There's some guys that work out and you can look at them, they are super toned and they're super ripped. But I've seen other guys put in the work, get physically stronger, but they're not cut and they're not ripped. So how is it that he can say, unless he's actually working out with Tua, to question Tua's work ethic? Like, he went straight to, like you said, he's not missing any meals. That's a crack, or that's an accusation that you would throw at somebody like James Harden. You would throw that at Shaq when he was like having problems with his weight. But why would you throw that at Tua? Like, throughout his career, Tua has struggled with the concussions, not a secret. But when I've looked at him, I've been so impressed with him because he's actually a smaller quarterback, but he's got a big arm. The idea that you don't think he puts in the work, I totally disagree with that. Ryan Clark is really what I would call quick-witted. He's really good on his toes, quick to respond. If you come at him, he can come right back at you. And sometimes he's spot on when he's trying to make a point. I just think this is one of those rare times that he was off. He was off. He kind of went on, like you said, a little bit of a rant that went, to me, a little bit out of bounds when you started dropping in, not just he hasn't missed meals, but then the strip club analogy and all that other stuff. Look, it just goes to show you that the guys that are really good at this media thing, they have bad days. They have off days as well. I'm going to trust Tua when he says he put in the work. I'm going to trust his head coach and his teammates. But the true value in whatever work Tua gets put in this offseason, it won't be if he looks ripped or not. It'll be if he can stay on the field and maintain his health.
And gentlemen, I want to close out the show today with getting your perspective, fair or foul, when it comes to Miss Asia Wilson, who just tied the record in the WNBA for leading scorer, most points in a single game. But now people are questioning the integrity of the record because it was a situation where some things happened towards the end of the game where her team kind of manipulated situations to get her some more shots, to get her some more looks, to kind of stop the clock at certain times. I see JG's making a face over there. So they realized she was close to the record, and then they started calling timeouts. There were some technical things involved, fouling on purpose to stop the clock to get more possessions, to get her the ball a little more so she could have a chance at the record. She ends up tying it and not breaking it. JG, 60 seconds before we get out of here. Do you have any issue with the way she set the record?
Did she set the record?
She tied the record, yep.
Oh, she tied it, okay.
She's in the books, officially.
So what? Okay, so is it Is it Bush League what they did? Of course it's Bush League of what they did. But does that change the factor that she got it? No, it doesn't change the factor that she got it. She got 53 points. Does anybody – I hate to do this. If this was the NBA, all right, if Kobe Bryant, who made 81, let's just say he got close to 100, and he was at 97 points, and Lakers started fouling on purpose to assure that he had one more chance to tie 100 points. Does anybody care that they fouled to make sure he gets one more shot? No. They wouldn't. Nobody would have cared. Nobody would have cared. If it was Jordan, nobody would have cared. If it was LeBron, nobody would have cared. I don't care. I don't care how they did it. Am I going to sit there and go, yeah, that's Bush League. They did it that way. But did she tie the record? Yes. Okay, she tied the record. Stop. This is ridiculous. Stop it. Be upset, but don't say it doesn't count.
Mo?
I kind of land with JG on this. Look, she got the record. She put in the work, and obviously she was playing well enough to be close enough to where she was in striking distance of tying it. So to me, 10 years from now, when we go, Asia Wilson one time scored 53 points, that's all I'm going to acknowledge, that she did that great feat. I'm not going to sit there and go like, well, they started fouling and stuff like that. Like, look, you can get into a debate about some records being, I guess, more organic than others, but the records are the records. And JG hit on a point. If it was Kobe, if it was KG or anybody else or any male athlete, we wouldn't be hearing this. So why are we giving Asia a hard time? Let's just give her flowers that she scored 53 points in a single game. And if anybody in the WNBA has a problem with it, then they need to score 54 in their next game.
Didn't we have a player years ago who was about to have a triple-double, and he went and did a layup on his own goal, missed on purpose, to get the rebound? I can't
remember his name. He played for the Cavs. Ricky, yeah. I can't remember his name, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Right.
Did anybody did anybody care that he did that to get the triple-double for that? I know it's not the same thing as a record, but, it was a statistical benefactor for himself. He missed a layup on his own goal, got the rebound, got the 10 rebound, got the triple-double, and nobody went denied. Is that not doing the same thing as far as integrity to the game itself?
Right.
Of course it is. But did anybody care? Nobody cared. So if the team itself, and, okay, let's put it this way. If I'm the opposing team, then I will speak up and say, hey, I would be the one to speak up and say, no, this is wrong. But if I'm a fan or I'm anybody else outside of those two teams, I don't care. Asia, you got 53. Great job. Let's stop.
Hey, guys, look, the year that Reggie White, the great Reggie White, rest in peace, got that sack record, and Brett Favre called that inexplicable play and basically gave himself up to be sacked.
To Michael Strahan.
Right. That was I apologize. Right. Michael Strahan. That was Bush. That was kind of Bush, but we got over it. And Michael Strahan owns that record. We didn't delve into it for years and have this big debate about it. We just moved on from it. Michael Strahan's got the record. That happens. So I'm with JG. She earned that record. Let's not make a to-do about it. It's not the first time that somebody's kind of done something Bush or whatever. The thing about the Cavs player, the worst thing I've ever seen. He was all by himself and threw the ball off the glass and caught it to get his triple-double.
And gentlemen, let's not forget, there was a team on the floor that could have stopped her. So as fouls are happening, and obviously you can't stop a technical shot, but as fouls are happening and she's getting more possessions, she's still playing against the defense. It's not like she was just by herself out there laying in buckets because they messed with the clock situation. So I agree with everything you guys said, and that's how we're going to close out the show today. So thank you to everyone who joined us this morning. Make sure you're smashing the like button. Make sure you're following us every morning here on Coffee and Sports, the morning show. Special thanks to JG for dropping in, dropping his baseball knowledge on us, letting us know about his pallet bed for his glove. And I'm glad the glove no longer gets timeouts. I feel better about this situation.
For it. I get it now.
Mo, I'll send you the instructions later how to make a pallet bed for your laptop. Okay, I think you guys need to bond a little more.
I need a better relationship like Will's got with his mic.
I agree. But make sure you're tuning in every morning, and we'll see you same time right here tomorrow. Coffee and Sports, the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Until we meet again, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good one, everybody.